Hello and welcome to MLW Confusion. I'm your host Rob Cameron, bringing you all that you may or may not know about Major League Wrestling and its television programming. This week, due to, snafu, cancellation, well, not quite cancellation, rescheduling, if you will, we're bringing back the Indie Spotlight instead of the regularly scheduled programming. But first, let's just go ahead and talk about the news of the week, shall we? I am going to talk about MLW news this week, for better or for worse, because this weekend is going to be MLW Superfight. Got a couple of announcements coming out of that. Of course, this is going to be February 7th at February 8th. At Center Stage, Atlanta, Georgia. Be live on YouTube, and then there's going to be a BN Sports taping as well. First announced match, well, at least new for this week, is a fatal four-way for the National Openweight Championship as Matthew Justice defends against Akira, Paul Walter Hauser, and Bobby Fish. And this motley assortment of individuals is interesting, as only one of the four have been successful in their last outing, and that was Bobby Fish. He's the only one of these four gentlemen who has a win streak as of late, which goes to show once again that MLW just books title matches arbitrarily. But yeah, so on paper, though, this should be a fun match. We got a batch of stories intersecting. Of course, the issues between the Rogue Horsemen and Paul Walter Hauser. Kira is now, the Psycho Samurai. And Matthew Justice is just happy to be here being a champion in MLW. Of course, we also hear from the featherweight champion Delmi Exo. She is going to, talk about the state of the division, which I thought she did last month, but what do I know? She is at least scheduled to appear at Superfight, as is Contra Unit. Mads Kruger has set forth a Contra-level threat of high. What this means for MLW and its programming at the moment is unsure, whether this is an attack on the World Heavyweight Champion, threat upon the company itself. Who knows, but we will find out at Superfight. Also announced for the BN Sports portion of the Superfight tapings, Ariel Dominguez returns to battle Okamura, and maybe Ariel Dominguez will get some offense in. I'm not going to hold my breath for it, but maybe this will be a bit more of a challenge than his match with Bobby Fish. Only one way to find out, though, and that is to watch the tapings later this month. And of course, last but not least, MLW is returning to New York City for Summer of the Beasts. Tickets go on sale, no, it's still this Tuesday. Time means nothing, and I've been actually jet-setting around the state this week, so my internal clock is all sorts of messed up, too. But tickets go on sale for Summer of the Beasts this coming Tuesday. That would be the 11th of February for the show. That is Thursday, June 26, 2025. Melrose Ballroom, of course, the return of Chicago. I really am jet lagged off the city. The return to New York City. Gosh. What are we even doing here, man? What am I getting paid the big bucks to do? I guess getting paid the big bucks to talk about independent wrestling, because this podcast's habit is, of course, to be the last bastion of independent wrestling. And, of course, this week we are bringing the return of Cass's Indie Spotlight. And we are going to, let's talk about this. Let's remix and rewind. So what's happening? Anyway, we're going to talk about Pro Wrestling Revolver, and they have a fairly new television program. It's called Remix, bringing you the best of Pro Wrestling Revolver action over its history. This is a Fight TV / Triller TV exclusive, and we're going to talk about episode 5. So let's go ahead and just kind of jump right into that. This episode is a special episode hosted by Jessica Havoc. She comes in after the countdown to the show to let everyone know that she is going to be there before we get the introduction, and then then she's running down the card for tonight. So tonight's show is going to be 3 matches, and from there we're just going to jump right into things. It is Steve Maclin with Killer Kelly taking on the Southern Psycho Mance Warner, and we aren't even going to wait even for that, because Mance is going to go right outside the ring and go after Steve Maclin. We are brawling around the ring. We're even brawling into the crowd, ladies and gentlemen. Mance introduces some chairs. Of course, a lot of wrestling weapons. He who smelt it dealt it. Mance throws a batch of chairs into the ring, and of course, by the time they make it into the ring, Maclin has recovered enough to use them on Mance. Mance sends Maclin into a corner chair, though, recovers just enough to throw Maclin into the corner before going outside and nabbing himself a door, 2 doors actually, and a fan sign. The sign's like, "Hey," as it literally says, use this sign as a weapon. So Mance obliges and hits Maclin with the sign, who then wanted a moment to himself before he collapsed, which I thought was hilarious. Mance just wallops Maclin in the head, and he just wobbles, and then literally holds up a finger, hold on, man. Wobble, splat. So I did get a pop out of that one. That one was right at my level of humor, so I was okay with that, though. Maclin, though, while I'm recovering from that spot, Maclin Death Valley drivers Mance through a batch of open chairs. Mance is set up in a tree of woe on a door, even. Maclin then hits a big spear, but only gets 2 off of that. Maclin goes for the flying nothing as Mance tees off with what's left of the door. Macklin's head goes right through the door, and he's wearing the door at this point, which was crazy. Go nuts. That bump, whether it's done on purpose or accident, always pops me as well. Mance then hits a choke slam on Maclin through another door. Killer Kelly interjects herself, gets in the ring between Mance and Maclin. Kelly spits in Mance's face. From there, Mance can't takes anymore, goes for the big eye poke, followed by some bionic elbows. However, this was all the distraction that Steve Maclin needed to roll Mance up to pick up the Flash victory. Your winner, Steve Maclin with Killer Kelly. I thought this match was fun. I am down for all sorts of weapons-based brawls, and of course, if you've listened to this podcast throughout its existence, regardless of what Mance Warner is doing, this podcast is probably going to support him, because let's face it, Mance is an entertaining SOB, whether he's riling up the crowd or riling up his opponents. Following this, we get a replay of Gia Miller. She is in the ring with Masha Slamovich. Gia is now the leader of a group called the Macabre, and she offers Masha a spot in said stable. Masha, though, wants none of it, flips off Gia, and Jessica Havoc appears and chokeslams Masha, and then Ace Austin was unconscious in the ring. He kind of wakes up just in time to get chokeslammed by Jessica Havoc as well. We cut back to the studio where Havoc notes that Masha was a bit too stubborn and just think, man, what could have happened with the Macabre, but it was so unreal. And speaking of unreal, our next match is going to be from Pro Wrestling Revolver Unreal. Masha Slamovich, Jacob Fatu, a dream match we probably didn't even know we wanted, but we're going to take a quick pause on that. Get yourself an energy drink, get yourself some Prince Nana coffee. We'll be back. Un momento. Hey folks, MLW Confusion's become a veritable hub of shopping and treats and all that sort of good stuff. Whether you need a sugar-free alternative to energy drinks in the form of Raise Energy, or maybe even, top-of-the-line ice makers, coffee machines, and other household appliances, or, well, let's go crazy, and you can even get WWE licensed apparel, all through my links section. All you got to do is wander down to the descriptor of this week's episode, check out the various links, click on them, and go shopping like you normally would. Heck, it's no difference. You just came in and just said Rob sent you. And that way, you can get the things you need, maybe even at a discount, and the podcast gets a kickback as well. So be sure to check out those links. Thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. All right, we are back with our second match. As I said, like, it's a dream match. I don't know if any of us had, but like once you realize it exists, oh, the salivation. Masha Slamovich battles Jacob Fatu, and just like the last match, we were going to start things hot. Masha starts off with a middle rope dropkick, using her speed to keep Fatu off balance, even sending Fatu outside. Masha hits a twisting tope suicida onto Fatu. They fight around the ring, which this is a bit more of Jacob Fatu's specialty, so they do go back and forth. However, Fatu chops the ring post, which always makes me wince. If we go inside the ring, though, and Masha is finally taken down by Fatu inside the ring, of course, and she is just whipped pillar to post by the much larger Fatu. Masha comes back with a strike fury flurry of offense. We're going to go with that. But she is stopped by a gnarly pop-up Uranagi. Long nerve pinch by Fatu keeps Masha down before she fires back with a pair of missile drop kicks. A flurry of kicks ending with a spinning heel kick only gets 2 for Masha. Masha charges right into a super kick, and that leads into a Jacob Fatu hip attack. However, Fatu misses the handspring moonsault. Masha goes for a victory roll. She can't quite hold it on, so she launches into a double stomp back into the victory roll-esque pin position. Only gets a 2 count off of that. Pop-up destroyer followed by a shining wizard by Masha. Only a 2 count in the K. That one kind of upset me because I'm a firm believer in pile drivers being the end-all be-all. But whatever, man. It's only a 2 count. We're just gonna keep on trucking on. Pop-up Samoan drop by Fatu. Masha gets up to defiantly flip off Fatu, who then takes her head off with a super kick, leading up to the patented Jacob Fatu double jump moonsault to pick up the victory. And this was a fun match. This is intergender wrestling done correctly. For those of you who maybe aren't a fan of intergender wrestling, like I feel like this is a match that kind of shows how it can be done, with like Masha trying to use her speed and precision strikes to wear down the much larger Fatu. But in this case, it wasn't enough, and the larger competitor, got to prevail in this situation. But I feel like this is like something that shows that intergender wrestling can work as long as the story in the ring is told correctly, of course. We go back to the booth, and Jessica Hatmaker calls both Fatu and Masha some of the best in the world. Again, lamenting the fact that Masha did not join the Macabre. Before moving on to our main event, which is no mat. It is strictly a ring boards and bull rope death match. It is Jake Crist with Bobby Orlando taking on Matthew Palmer. Palmer does all the stalling he can before he gets hooked up to the bull rope. Basically, there are no rules. It is just pinfalls and submissions to end this match. It is not a tag the 4 corners kind of bull rope match. It's just anything goes, and the rope is just there for some added fun. But the bell rings. We get the clubbering. We're starting off with the clubbering and taking turns, dropping each other directly onto the ring boards, which, like, don't get me wrong, like, there's not a lot of padding in a wrestling ring to begin with, but they stripped that like whole inch of padding off, and it's just wood planks at this point. Palmer is forced to go to the outside from the pain. Tope con Elo by Crist, followed up by a Acai moonsault too, which all this stuff you have to be extra careful about because they are tied to the wrist by a bull rope. However, Crist misses a running kick into the guardrail, and Palmer guillotines Crist on the ring apron, like up underneath the ring, like a bottom rope guillotine, except it's now the ring apron. This busts Crist open, and we got ourselves some blood. Jake Crist go blood, and Palmer works over the blood, opening the wound up a bit wider before a big back body drop inside the ring. Palmer goes for a door, and Crist power slams Palmer through said door because once again, he who dealt it smelt it. Crist gets cut off up at the top rope, and Palmer superplexes Crist off the top, and that hurt me just watching it, man. Say what you want about Jake Crist, but he is a tough SOB, and I'm not just saying that because he's a friend of the show, of course. Big kick and a pair of springboard cutters by Crist, however, only get a 2 count, which like is crazy go nuts because like that's Crist's like primary finish right there. However, Palmer hits a low blow followed up by a crash landing style suplex. That's only a 2 count as well. From there, Palmer goes after Bobby Orlando, the BF BFF of Jake Crist. However, Crist intercepts the attack with a cover, but he pins him like too deep, if that's such a thing. Like he rolls him up and stacks him too high on the shoulders, so Palmer could just push himself off slightly easier than he would normally if you had that held down correctly. However, Crist goes outside the ring and makes a bridge out of the ring boards. Like he slides them out of the ring over the guardrail. Crist, of course, then gets superplexed onto that ring board bridge, which also looked like it hurt like a mo. It was, comparatively speaking, very, very unsafe and looked like it hurt Palmer just as bad. Inside the ring, Palmer gets zip ties and ties Crist to the top rope. From there, Palmer gets a bottle of Jack Daniels, mists Crist in the face before pouring it all over him. Commentary is going nuts because, for those of you who aren't aware, Jake Crist is in remission for alcoholism. He actually goes into this in detail if you want to go find the MLW Confusion interview with Jake Crist, which he throws that out of nowhere. Like, sidebar. Like, it's one of the things, like, I remember in my podcasting career because, not that I do, like, a whole lot of, like, hey, we're going to talk about XYZ when we do the prep for the podcast. So, like, we didn't cover a whole lot of, stuff we're going to cover beforehand, but we definitely didn't cover his alcoholism. And he just drops that bomb on me, and I'm like, oh, okay. And like you could hear me just kind of like when he's like, and that's when I knew I had the demon of drink, because I was not prepared for that. Anyway, back to the match though. Jack Daniels all over the place. Jake's wife Nevaeh comes out. She tries to free Crist. Palmer suffocates her with a plastic bag. That is all Crist can stand. Like, he can stand all he can stand, and he can't stand no more. Goes after Palmer, hoists him up, tombstone pile driver style, and pile drives him through the open slats in the ring. Like, basically, just literally tombstoned him through the ring. And, like, crazy go nuts, man. Like, I had literally never seen anything quite like that. Palmer is indirectly the first person out of the hole because Crist just hoisted him up onto Crist's shoulders before dumping him out into the ring. Got the pin off of that one, and a well-earned victory for friend of the show, Jake Crist. And, like, that match is crazy go nuts with, like, bumps that, man, had to take time off both gentlemen's careers, but especially Crist, because some of those super plays were just nuts. So, and he took two of them. Just took two of them. It was crazy, but crazy main event. And once again, like, shows why Jake Crist was the Pro Wrestling Revolver champion for quite some time. And that Palmer, like, spent a lot of time doing comedy in Revolver, but also kind of reminding everyone why he's a threat. We go back to the studio, and Jessica puts over, like, this is just a fraction of the just a fraction of the action you can see at any given Pro Wrestling Revolver show. And as someone who has been to Revolver, like, I have to agree, like, they put on amazeballs shows. And if you have Triller TV, like, all of their shows are on Triller. Though if you are they usually run out of Ohio or like Cincinnati area, and Des Moines, Iowa. Like, if you guys are out in those areas, totally get yourself to tickets. They put on a banger of a show with some of the top talent in the country. But yeah, that is Revolver Remix. I thought that show was a lot of fun. And it was great because it was just, just under an hour, which is like one of the perfect times for televised professional wrestling, in my humble opinion. But a great show, and obviously, like, I pay attention to Revolver, so it's already on my radar. It's already in my rotation. But if Pro Wrestling Revolver is not in your rotation and you got Triller TV, be sure to check them out. So in the meanwhile, though, like, thank you all for giving this a listen. Stay tuned, because in theory, according to the schedule, we got John Wayne Murdoch dropping by the studio later next week. Also going to try to do something crazy, trying to do a crazy live, so stay tuned to the social medias for that. And we're just going to keep on rocking on, man. Thank you all for giving this a listen, and stay tuned for the plugs and the best ways you can support this here podcast. And in the meanwhile, I'll see you all next week. MLW Confusion is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. MLW Confusion is part of the Urban Wrestling Network, and you can check them out and check out the Major League Pod on YouTube at Urban Wrestling NW. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is also helpful. Word of mouth of advertisement is very important for small podcasts such as this. Social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter and Instagram are at The Nova of Cass, TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is at MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual chip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, you can go to patreon.com/Casanova, CASSONOVA, whereas for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Alex McCarthy, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the description to find some affiliate links for, well, WWE merch, coffee machines, ice makers, and much more. For business inquiries such as ads and sponsorships, please email rzkamer, that's Kamerer, at comcast.net. Thank you for listening.